Hello, everyone. Welcome back to In the Yard podcast with your hosts, Collin and Braeden Cox. And we have been previewing each division in baseball ahead of the 2025 season. We have already done the AL East and the NL East, so check out those videos if you haven't already. And in this episode, we are going to be discussing the AL Central with the Guardians, Tigers, Royals, Twins, and White Sox. Everybody and I are excited, and stay tuned for future episodes as we finish up the other divisions around MLB. And every division so far has been super fun to talk about, super close, it seems like. And I don't think the AL Central is going to be any different. A lot of good teams there, a lot of very even teams, and a lot of stuff going on in the AL Central. Last year, they had three teams make the playoffs. I don't think anyone really expected that. Yeah, Bray and I are excited to talk about it. Bray, how you feeling?
Feeling great. This is one of the ones that I've probably the most excited to talk about, but also the most, I hate to use the word scared, but it feels like a crapshoot for
Yeah,
four out of
it's
the
tough.
five teams here.
It's tough.
So, I mean, our picks, I'm expecting them to be a little bit all over the place. And I don't know. I wouldn't bet anything this division this year just because you know, I think 4 to 5 teams could totally win it. And I think that it'll probably be really close, not to get too ahead of ourselves, but
Yeah. Yeah. So, do we want to get right into it?
let's do it.
Yeah, so I think the format is we've been doing alphabetical order by city, right?
City.
Um,
Uh-oh. So that
or-
means,
so we're starting off hot then with the Chicago
yeah,
White Sox. Starting off
yeah.
hot. White Sox did make some moves this offseason. Last year, they were the worst team in the history of baseball when looking at regular season record. Um, but it was a kind of a rebuild year. They had the stuff going on with Tim Anderson. Um, And I think it's kind of just a rebuild because they like, was it 3 or 4 years ago? They were like first in the AL, right? Or like one of the top teams in the AL some
Couple
years
years
ago.
ago, yeah.
Yeah. Like when the Field of Dreams season,
Yeah,
they
like
were
I don't know if
good.
they
Okay,
made
that's
did they
4 years
make the
ago
playoffs?
now, but
I don't know
yeah,
if
they
they
made
made
the
the
playoffs
playoffs.
that year. I think they did.
Yeah, they were like a decent team. You know what I mean? Like I don't think anybody was
Yeah.
expecting them to win it all, but they felt like that they were a threat to some degree.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I think the matter of this of for the White Sox this season is, will they repeat and be the worst team in history again? I don't think so. I think they're gonna be better than they were last year for sure. They still have a very good center fielder in Luis Robert Jr. They signed Andrew Benintendi, who knows not really in his prime anymore, but he, could still play a little bit, I think, even though I think he's starting the year on the IL. They go out and get Mike Talkman, who was solid for our Yankees for a little run there.
It's true.
And Zola was also solid in Chicago as well. I just think the Cubs didn't really have room for him. But yeah, I just think, not much to talk about with the White Sox. I don't think it's any going to be a surprise that I have them finishing last in the division. And probably just in the middle of a rebuild, and just, I don't know. It's really all I got to say about the White Sox.
Yeah, I don't am I reading this right? 41 and 121 last year? Or is that what their record was?
No,
I don't think it was that low. I don't know what site this is. I just pulled up the first thing.
let me see.
I don't think it was that low. Hold up.
Yeah,
I
it
don't want
was.
to. I don't.
Dude,
It was that
it was
bad.
41 and 121. And they beat the Yankees. Remember that one
They
series
did.
where
I
they
remember
they
watching
like
that
10
game. They
run
went
them?
nuts.
Yeah.
They put up like 10 runs on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
41.
41. It's
It's going to
I'm
be
also
hard to
gonna have
not
them.
top that.
Yeah, I'm also gonna have them finishing last, easily, right? If I'm gonna bet anything in this division, it probably doesn't win you anything, but it would be White Sox to finish last for sure. But I do think that they will get more than 41 wins. Um,
I wonder what the over under
because
is.
at least they know what they are now, and they are like 100% committed to like a rebuild or whatnot. I know Tim Anderson is gone. I think he's on the Angels now. But like you said,
He's in
Talkman's
minor
there.
league. Yeah.
They got Andrew Benintendi on like a ridiculous contract there. So like, I don't know. Like Luis Roberts is cool. You know what I mean? I'm surprised he's still there.
He's going to be traded, I bet. I would
I'm
say he
sure
gets
he'll be
traded.
traded. But like I don't know. It feels like for the White Sox, if there's any White Sox fans watching out there, it can't get much worse
South
than
side.
last year. Like I don't know, like 60 wins would be huge for this team, I
Yeah.
feel like this
Yeah.
year. Is that possible?
Over under according to DraftKings is 53.5.
Maybe I'm feeling
I would take the
special and I
over.
and
I would take the
maybe I
over.
take the over. 53?
Yeah.
Come on.
Like, I don't think they're going to be as bad as they were last year. But, 41 wins, like, it's still, like, that's hard to come back from, like, even to be, like, somewhat in contention. But I don't know. I got all my thoughts. I don't want to waste too much time just talking about the White Sox and how bad they are.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean they only won like 25% of their games last year. You feel like they have to do better.
yeah.
They have to.
How
I
many
don't
games
know.
under 500 is that? 80? Yeah,
A lot.
80.
Yeah,
80 games under
basically.
500. That's
So
insane.
the only way is up. There's no
Yeah.
way that they
No.
are worse than that. But
Yeah.
like you said, one of those wins was against our Yanks. So who
Yeah.
knows? Who knows what
So
could
there
happen?
you go. All right. Let's go to the new city, Cleveland, right?
Yeah.
Chicago to Cleveland, South Side to Northern Ohio.
Yeah.
Um, so Cleveland Guardians, a lot to unravel here. I think last year they won 94 games, won the AL Central, and then made it to the ALCS. But according to Fangraphs projections, they're going to be finishing fourth in the
Really?
division, according to Fangraphs.
Okay.
And actually finished below 500. And I just disagree with that. I think they did lose some pieces. They lost Andres Jimenez. They lost Josh Naylor, right? Who were very productive last year. But they still have Jose Ramirez. They still have Brian Rocchio. I'm not really sure who's going to be playing for second. But they acquired Carlos Santana, who's more of a glove now. And they also still have Stephen Kwan and Stephen Vogt is coming off of a manager of the year. I think he's only going to be better as well. But yeah, just super surprising to me that Fangraphs had them finishing fourth. I think they're going to be a lot better. I think the division is still theirs to lose, especially after winning 94 games last year.
It's fair. Yeah. I mean, I think the talk about Cleveland is, they were in the ALCS last year. Um, so, they basically did all that there is to do besides make it to the World Series in the AL. So you got to give them props there, and you have to give them credit there going into this season. It seems like that they did lose a decent bunch in the offseason. Like I mentioned to you earlier, like David Fry is going to start on the 60-day IL.
Yeah.
Jimenez gone. They it sounds like that their biggest offseason acquisition was Carlos Santana, right?
Mm-hmm.
And after you just were in the ALCS, it kind of feels like, you were hoping for a little bit more there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I just
Because I
think
don't know how you, God, of
I was gonna say I just think they're still a very good team. They still have Emmanuel Classe who
course.
was great in the regular season, didn't really do that well in the postseason. But he's still gonna be a solid closer. He's one of the best closers in the game. And I just think Fangraphs is lowball. I don't know what other sites are saying about the Guardians, but
Yeah.
I think they're gonna be a solid team. I think they're gonna be in there for the playoff contention and um even for the top of the division.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you got anything to add on the Guardians?
I
I'm sure
mean,
we'll
not
talk
really.
about
I
them
mean, I
more
think
toward
that
the
there's
end.
definitely an expectation now. You mentioned Stephen Vogt as their manager. I mean, they obviously have something there. I think the big thing for them, and I already said it, but like I would have liked to seen them go out and acquire something that I can look at and be like, okay, this team can maybe win the AL, because to me they didn't do anything. If anything, they regress. I'm not saying that they're not good and they can't win this division. They totally can, right? But you know, they went from the ALCS and it doesn't feel like that they did anything to bolster their
Yeah.
team at all, which if I was a Guardians fan, I'd be a little bit disappointed in. Not to say that they can't do it, but
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like, you know,
Yeah.
and I know this is a
It.
extreme example, but look at the Mets. The Mets,
Yeah.
were in the NLCS and then went all in and got Juan Soto this offseason. I'm not saying that the Guardians
Yeah.
would have been able to go get Juan Soto, but some sort of acquisition to maybe like turn a few more heads.
Mm-hmm.
But like to me, like Carlos Santana just he can't just be that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
not to say they
And
can't have a good year, but
it looks like Fangraphs just doesn't like their starting pitching, which makes sense.
yeah,
Need started pitching to win, but yeah, I don't know. I can't see them having that much of a fall off going into 2025. But we'll get back
yeah.
to them. All right, let's go from C to C to D.
Detroit.
Detroit.
Detroit. The Motor
The
City.
Motor City. Yes. Um, yeah, a lot of stuff to talk about with the
A lot of
Detroit
chatter
Tigers.
there too.
The Gritty Kitties.
Yeah.
I think what was it? 0.4% chance to make the playoffs in I think it was like mid-August, about
Yeah.
mid-early August, 0.4% to make the playoffs. And then snuck in I think they were kind of secured, like even like by like the second to last game of the season. I think they were pretty much in.
Yeah.
So it didn't really come down to last game. So really cool story there. They kind of came out of nowhere. It just had a crazy month of August and September. And I remember watching the Little League World Series game when they walked off the Yankees. We're not going to get into that, but I think that just, definitely helped get some momentum. I think they had momentum going into that series actually. And then all the Yankees fans were like, oh, why? How do you lose to the Tigers? But Tigers were like playing really good ball up until then,
Yeah.
and then even after that. Um, so yeah, and then they also made some big offseason, acquired our guy Gleyber Torres, um, get Jack Flaherty, who just coming off a World Series, he's back in Detroit, and Tyreek Skubal coming off a Cy Young, so they're a solid team, and they also have Riley Green, who I think is gonna have a really good season as well. But yeah, I think they're gonna be fun to watch, and then again, I just think the division overall is gonna be fun to watch as well.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think that the Tigers, definitely exceeded expectations from last year. Like you said, it was like a 0.4% chance or whatever it was for them to make the playoffs right around the Little League World Series. They got a little taste of Sunday Night Baseball,
Mm-hmm.
and it was, exponential growth from there. And then, it wasn't like that they just made the postseason. It was a good story. Like they went into Houston and they kind of took down the big bad
Yeah,
Astros, right?
swept them in
Um,
Houston.
Smoked them in Houston, right? And yeah, they did lose in the ALDS to their division rival, the Guardians, who we already talked about. But they fought that series, right? It wasn't like they didn't go down easy, right?
No,
Um,
they had a 2-1 series lead. I think their
that's what I'm
pitching got I
saying.
think their pitching got fatigued. I think the
Yeah,
Guardians had a little bit more depth um,
yeah,
in the
yeah,
DS, and they ended up winning. I think who had that big grand slam? I think it was Lane Thomas off of
yeah,
Skubal. I think it was. I
yep,
think Skubal was getting a little gassed. But
yeah,
yeah, that was a fun series to watch because that game five was pretty crazy.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, don't want to get too much into that. But yeah, you know, I think the Tigers kind of have more of an identity now, and I
yeah,
think they
100%.
kind of know who they are, and I think I don't know how they're going to play. Like, I don't know if they're still considered an underdog at this point. I'm not really sure. I think it's kind of still a question about whether they could be like a top team in the American League. But I think they'll be fun to watch. I think they have a good young core.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this is going to be a fun team to watch this year. I think they start the year in LA against the Dodgers. So we're gonna get like right off the bat, we're gonna get Dodgers Tigers, which I think is
So we're getting
really cool for me.
Tariq and probably who would be throwing for the Dodgers? Would it be Yamamoto?
Probably like
Right?
game one of that series to start the year.
That'd
I
be
mean, I guess
fun.
it's not the opening game for the Dodgers, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
because I guess the
you know what I mean?
Dodgers are
Because the
playing in
Dodgers play in
Japan. Yeah,
Japan or Korea, whatever it is.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, like the first Dodgers game at Dodger Stadium to start the year is against the Tigers. So
Wow.
I don't know. It's gonna be Schoolville versus one of those dogs, and they got maybe Snell. Maybe they give the nod to Snell.
Yeah,
Who knows? Like
yeah.
that. I'm excited for that.
It's
Like
just
I'll be tuned in.
it's also crazy how we're just talking about how like the Dodgers really have like three aces I could just throw out there
Yeah.
on opening day, but we'll get
Yeah.
into the Dodgers in another episode. But yeah, I just think
Yeah.
we'll go back to the Tigers. I think they'll be fun. I think they kind of know who they are, and they're gonna be playing with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder still.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, they're gonna be fun. Gonna be fun to watch. We'll get into them
Yeah.
later as well. Got anything else to add on the
No.
gritty
No.
kitties
I'm
of
good.
Detroit? I wonder. I am curious to see how Glaber is going to do for them. It says he's going to be like their second best position player according to Fangraphs, like projections.
Really.
Yeah, behind Riley
Okay.
Green. So
Okay.
let's see. I'm rooting for Glaber. Hope maybe a fresh
100%.
start will do
And
good for him.
Tommy.
So
And Tommy.
yeah. Um.
Cool.
All right. So that brings us
Brings us
to
to Kansas City, right?
Kansas City. Yeah, another team that no one was really expecting to be a breakout team, and then all of a sudden in 2025 they make the playoffs. I think they got past the first round too. They beat
The
who did they
Orioles
well, yeah, so they swept the Orioles too,
in
and
Camden
Camden.
Yards.
So Royals come in. I think they had Lugo game one, and then probably Reagan's game 2.
Yeah.
Reagan's
And then they had a
and
couple of
then
days off, and then they had Waka go game 1 against the Yanks.
yes. Yeah, we were at the ALDS game 1. That was fun.
Yep.
But yeah, I think the Royals also I think all these teams are just so similar, especially the Royals and Tigers were they're really young. They play kind of their own brand of ball. And they're just very, very even throughout the whole division. But I just think I don't know. What are your thoughts on the Royals? I know I have a feeling of high expectations for the Royals this year. I know you're a big Bobby Witt Jr. guy, and
Yeah.
they have a good core as well. So I just want to get your thoughts on the Royals.
Yeah, I really like what the Royals have. I mean, like we said at the beginning of this, arguably you can make an argument for any one of these 4 teams to win this division, right?
Yeah,
I think the Royals probably, maybe not I probably shouldn't say probably. He's definitively the best player in the division, right? Bobby Witt, I would say at this point, right?
yeah. Besides
Um,
Glaber, yeah.
yeah. And they have Salvador Perez, who's been around forever. He's won a championship, right?
Yeah,
So like he knows what it takes to win. And they got great starting pitching. Like you said, Waka, Lugo, and Reagan's in a divisional round series or whatever it may be, like that's there's not that many 1, 2, 3s in the league that,
yeah,
that can, shape up to that, right? That's a really good 1, 2, 3 for them. So yeah, I mean, I think that the expectations last year, no, it was 2 years ago, right? They were awful, right? I think they were like
yeah.
the
They're really
second or
bad.
third worst team in baseball. And then
Yeah,
last year they made it all the way to the DS. So now
big
there's
jump.
definitely an
Yeah.
expectation for them.
Mm-hmm.
Can they get to those expectations, meet them, or even, surpass them? I think it's totally possible. Um, it's just one of those things where, the division seems so even across, like you said, the Tigers, the Twins, the Guardians, Royals, that it can go any way.
Yeah,
But yeah,
and
I definitely have
also
high expectations. I think Bobby Witt is
yeah,
definitely going to be in the MVP conversation too.
I also have a good first baseman in Vinny Pasquatch. I think he's a fun player to watch as well. He was injured toward the end of the regular season and
Yeah,
tried to come back for the playoffs. I don't think he really did that well in the playoffs, but I think the
yeah,
injury had a lot to do with it. I don't even think he was playing first. I think he was DHing strictly. I could be
hmm
wrong though on that, but yeah, hopefully he'll have a full help. Hopefully he'll have a fully healthy season as well. And again, I think the Royals are gonna be fun to watch. I think it's good for baseball. The Royals are good again, and they have a young stud, probably the future of the league, 2-3 years from now, in Bobby Witt Jr. So,
yeah,
so yeah, it's gonna be fun to watch. And if you're not tuning to Royals games now, I would definitely tune into some this season. So,
yeah.
um,
And I'm sure they're going to be in some primetime spots.
yeah,
So,
they're the second best
and
player
probably
as well.
their big offseason acquisition would be Jonathan India, which he's a great player, so that only
Yeah,
bolsters the lineup a little bit
yeah.
more.
He's probably
So
more of a utility guy for them, I would assume, kind of thing. Just plug him in where you gotta give guys
yeah,
rest. I think so.
yeah. I mean, he can play first, he can play
Yeah,
second for sure,
yeah.
but
And they've good starting pitching, right?
absolutely, yeah. Like you
Lugo,
said,
Reagan's, Waka. That's a
can't go
solid
too wrong
solid
there.
rotation there. All right. All right, let's
Michael
go.
Lorenzen, yeah.
Yeah. You have anything else on the Royals, or do you want to get into
No, I'm just looking at
the
their
last team?
infield. I'm just checking them out. Hunter Renfro, um,
Hmm.
is in their outfield still. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we'll see what the Royals got this year. There's definitely an
Remember?
expectation though now.
Yeah. Remember in the game 1 when we went to MJ Melendez went yard with Garrett Cole, and we're like, what was that?
Yeah,
I don't think he
yeah.
had a homer for literally a whole month, and then he goes yard off Cole in the playoff game.
Of
But
course.
they still won that game that went to. All right. But yeah, outfield is a little concerning for them. They have a really solid infield and
Yep.
catcher in Salvi.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, I think that brings us to our last team,
Yep.
the Twin City Twins of Minnesota. Um,
Yep.
Kind of a letdown of a season last year, right, Braden?
Absolutely.
I think it's funny because we had because it's funny because we had the Twins winning the division and making the playoffs, but they didn't make that. They didn't make the playoffs, and then the 3 other teams from that division and the Royals, Guardians, and Tigers all did make the playoffs. So we kind of botched that a little bit, didn't we? Or did the Twins kind of not play to their to the level that people were expecting.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I don't think that we should put it on ourselves here. I think that this is on
Okay,
them
you're
because
blaming the
if we're
Twins. Yeah.
yeah, I mean like look, the Tigers, like you said, had a 0.04% chance to make the postseason in mid-August, right? The
Mhm.
Twins were far more in the conversation. I don't know. I couldn't tell you exactly where they were as far as standings throughout the whole season. Um,
I
but
can.
the Royals had a hot start, I remember. Um, Cleveland, I feel like kind of controlled the division throughout the entire season. The Twins were like for 95% of the season, 90% of the season, whatever it may be, we're probably in second or third and then blew it in the last month. Like I told you before we started, in the month of September last year, they went 9 for 15. They basically had a prove it series to end the year at home against Baltimore and got blown out 3 straight games. So
Hmm.
it's, you know what I mean? To me, it's
Yeah.
not, um, it can't be on us for picking them. I think the majority of people probably went with Minnesota there, and they just had an off season, a lot of injuries, and you know, really kind of choked when it mattered most. So
Yeah. I'm trying to find the playoff odds. Um, but I
from this
can't
season or
find
last
them.
year,
No, I'm just like last year there was a chart of like literally like you could pick any day. Like it was like a line graph, and you can go to like June 1st and tell you where like each team was in their division and like how much of a
sure,
chance they had
sure,
to make the playoffs. Can't find that right now. But yeah, I don't know if they were ever as good as the Guardians. I think the
no,
Twins have a really hot did have a really hot start. And were kind of neck and neck with the Guardians, and then they kind of like really fell off. I think they were in contention for a wild card. Like they were still ahead of the Royals and the Tigers, and then they kind of blew
yeah,
at the end. Um, but yeah, we both had them win the division. I had them even making the World Series
yeah,
as a kind of like a Cinderella team as for my 2024 preseason prediction. But yeah, I think injury to Royce Lewis, um, definitely didn't help. Byron Buxton, I think, was down, of course, for a majority of the season. But yeah, I just think Fangraphs does have them winning the division in this year. Like on paper, they're a really good team. But like they just didn't win the games last year. And if they didn't win them last year, I don't think they have to prove to me that they could win them this year.
and
Because I was
yeah, you
really
got to
on the
see it to
Twins
believe
last year.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you lost the trust in them.
Yeah. Um, and then I was gonna say one more thing. Oh yeah. So um, so last year they were 12-1 against the White Sox, and they finished 82-80. So like if you take the historically worst baseball team in history out of that picture, the Twins finish 11 games under 500. I know that's just a hypothetical, but they only
Yeah,
finished
and
two games.
you'd have to hold the Royals and the Guardians to that same standard because they beat up on them too. But I get your point here.
Yeah. Um, so they owned the White Sox, but like other than that, they didn't really play 500 ball against like even average teams. So I just have a lot of questions around the Twins. I think they're going to be good. I think they're all going to like all the four teams besides the White Sox are going to be in like a playoff race toward come the end of the season, come September. But the Twins are like kind of last on my list right now, just because they have to prove to me that they can win games and stay healthy. So
Okay.
they have really good bullpen. I think Fangraphs has them having the best bullpen in baseball. Um, and then solid starting pitching as well. But I think obviously it's going to be mostly you can't win a division solely based on relief pitching. You have to have good offense and a good starting rotation as well. So a lot of questions. I'm rooting for them, but they have to prove it to me that they could compete with the other teams in the division. So
So what I'm hearing is you won't be sticking with them for your
no, they
2025
lost
World
my
Series
trust.
pick. You're not gonna go down that route again.
Yeah, yeah,
No, I can't argue with you there. I think they've lost the trust of probably even their own fan base at this point. They got to see it now. The division is
yeah,
not a gimme. I don't think it
yeah.
ever really was, but it felt like that them and the Guardians were consistently like the best teams in that division. I know that we said that the White Sox made the playoffs a few years ago and whatnot, but
Mm-hmm.
we look at the Twins as being like probably, over the past 5 years or so, probably have had the best roster construction of the five, where you have the most confidence in them.
Yeah.
And last year they just kind of fell flat.
Mm-hmm.
In large part to, like you said, they kind of played mid against mid teams and, they beat up on the White Sox. Like I need to see more than that. Especially when you have a division where last season 3 teams made the playoffs. So you're going to go into this year and not say that this is going to happen again, but
Yeah,
have to have the expectation that it's not going to be a cakewalk, or it's going to be much more of a dogfight.
yeah. I was thinking it must be really hard being like a Minnesota sports fan, right?
Yeah.
Vikings never seem to have any luck. The Twins, they had a good run in 2023, but they lost to the Astros in the
Tim-
ALCS, I think
the
2023.
Timberwolves have like forever been bad, but now
Yeah,
they're like kind of good, but not great. A-Rod
yeah.
owns them, which is funny.
The Minnesota
Um,
Wild aren't bad. I actually think they're pretty good this year. But
so it's just a bunch of mid. Like,
it,
when's the
it
last
is it is a hockey
championship?
it is a hockey city kinda. So
True,
I guess at least they
100%.
got the Wild going for them. But yeah, not gonna get into that. I think we could do our predictions now, Brandon. Let's wrap up here, right?
Yeah, am I going first or are
Anything
you going first?
anything else? Do you have anything else to add? Just any tidbits? Um,
No, I mean, I think when I give my picks, I'll be able to back them up, kinda,
yeah,
sorta, right? Because it's
yeah,
like we said, I think 4 teams can win this, but somebody
yeah,
has to finish first and somebody needs to finish fourth,
yeah,
which is tough, right? And it's definitely not that clear cut, but yeah, I'm ready. If you're ready, do you want me to go
yeah.
first? Do you want to go first? What are you
No,
thinking?
I just think it's really funny that last year, like 3 teams from the Central made it, and the one team that we both picked to make it didn't make it in the Twins. So I think that's why I'm so mad at them, and that's why I'm not really don't have really super high expectations as of right now for them.
And
But
the team that most people picked, I felt like that the Twins were like the clear, like when we made our picks last year, we didn't hesitate when we picked the
yeah,
Twins
I think I felt like I think I really liked what they did like in the wild card in 2023.
against Toronto.
Was it against Toronto?
I think it was Toronto. And then they played Houston the
Yeah.
next round.
Yeah. And then they kind of, I was like, okay, maybe they could build off of this, get some momentum, but no, they didn't. I think injuries did play a factor, but again, they got a protein. All right, let's get predictions. I think I went first last time. So
I don't remember. You want me
so
to
you can
go
go.
first? I don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead. Give me your
So
one through
am I going
five
from
in
one
the
to
in the AL
five?
Central.
1 to 5 or 5 to 1?
We've been doing
Or
1 to 5. I'm
okay.
I'm assuming 5 is the White Sox for you. Here, I think
Yes,
unless
I'm
you know
gonna have the
something I
White
don't.
Sox finishing last, right? So as the division winner, maybe surprise, I'm gonna pick the Tigers.
Okay. I
I'm
like
gonna
I
pick the
said, I feel
Tigers.
like any of the 4 teams can win the division. Like it's really tough. Like there's
Yeah.
very very even teams.
Yeah,
But yeah,
and
go
I'll
ahead.
preface that 1 through 4 here, I could see being separated by very few games. Kind of like what we said with the NL East, right? With the Mets, Phillies, and Braves. Like this could be separated by 3 games. I wouldn't say exactly 3 here, but you get my point. Is I think that this will be very close. I'm gonna pick the Tigers. I like Flaherty. I like Alex Cobb. We love Scooble, obviously, coming off the Cy Young. Sneaky good bullpen. I feel like that their lineup. I know you told me at the beginning of this that Parker Meadows is going to be out indefinitely, which I don't love, but I love the addition of Gleyber Torres there. Sucks to see him on a different team. I wish him the best there, but um, I don't know. Like I just there's something in me that likes Detroit this year to kind of back up what they did last year. I'm not going to sit here and say that they're a true threat in the AL, right? They might
Mm-hmm.
be by default because the AL is kind of on the weaker side, but I like them to win this division. And I think it would be a really cool story. Um, in
Bounce
second,
back after their Cinderella run. Yeah.
yeah. In second, finishing second, I'm gonna have Minnesota, man. I think that they're gonna figure it out. I think last year was kind of a blip. They're still really good. Like again, top to bottom, they probably of these 5 teams have the best overall roster. I like Correa. I like Buxton. I just like to me, like it would be shocking for them to have another bad season in a row with the talent that
Yeah.
they have on the team, right? So I'm gonna go Twins 2.
Wow.
3, I'm gonna go Cleveland.
You're
I'm gonna
surprising me. You're
I'm
really
gonna go
surprising me. No,
Cleveland.
I'm not saying
Sure.
you're wrong or I disagree. You're not going the way I thought you would. But go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Cleveland here. Again, like I don't know if we're gonna get 3 teams that come out of this. I feel like Cleveland definitely takes a step back. And I felt like they lost too much, right? And seeing David Fry, start on the 60-day IL. I know he was huge for them in the postseason last year. And like you said, like their starting pitching, like I think it was Fangraphs or something, had them finishing pretty low too, like third or fourth, purely based on starting pitching. So, you know, like I said earlier, someone has to finish third and fourth here, right? So I'm gonna have Cleveland third, and I'm gonna have Kansas City fourth because I don't think Kansas City has that much. Like you said, their outfield doesn't really impress me a ton. I'm not saying they can't be good, but outside of Bobby Witt, Salvador Perez, who's up there in age, and Jonathan India, like who do you love in their infield? I get their starting pitching's great, but I just don't know if they're gonna have like huge offensive games. And I hope this comes back to bite me because I love the Royals. I love Bobby Witt. I just don't know if there's enough there. I don't think you can just go and get Jonathan India and be
No.
like, yeah, like we're the best team in the division now. I still think Bobby Witt is probably going to be top three in AL MVP, but I'm going to pick them to finish fourth. And 1 through 4 will probably be separated by very few games.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But then there's going to be a drop off for them between them and the White Sox. So
Yeah. So you had the White Sox finishing first then?
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you can't really go wrong. There's no wrong answers, especially at the beginning of the season here. Like I said, all teams there's that even. But I do have a lot of mix up in your
okay,
predictions to mine. We got 5 minutes here.
yeah.
Um, so my predictions are, did you get everything you wanted to
Yeah,
add?
yeah, that's all I got.
And I'm not saying I necessarily disagree with you. Like it could be any of these
It can
teams,
go
any of the
anyway.
top four teams could go
I'm just
anyway.
saying this because it's what
And
my
it's good
heart
for
thinks.
baseball because it's gonna be fun to watch. Like, okay. And it's gonna be a matter of like who has momentum going into September, kind of thing, kind of like last year. Um,
Yeah.
but Braden, my number one, I kind of already mentioned this subtly earlier in the episode. But I'm going with the Guardians. I know they lost a lot,
Okay.
and I kept saying they won 94 games before. It was only 92 in 2024. But I can't see them really having that much of a fall off. Yeah, I know they lost Josh Naylor, and I know they lost Andres Jimenez as well.
Yep.
But I just can't see them having that much of a fall off. They still have Jose Ramirez, still have Brian Rocchio, still have Lane Thomas, David Fry, he said
Stephen
on the
Kwan.
IL, but they have in Jurkency Noel, maybe he'll have a breakout season, right? And I think Stephen Vogel's going to learn from last season as well. Kevin coming off a manager of the year. But until like the Guardians really fall off, like they're a good team year in and year out, it seems like. So until they really
Yeah.
fall off, I'm still gonna roll with them. Especially with the
Okay.
experience they have. And I think they're gonna be going all in, considering like Jose Ramirez's prime is kind of up as
Yeah.
well. But yeah, I still like the Guardians. I know their pitching is gonna be great. But they find ways to win games, and they're really good offensively. So I'm rolling with them as
That's
one. I
fair.
just until someone tops them,
That's
I'm not
fair.
gonna pick against them. And then I actually
Fair.
do have the Royals at 2.
Okay.
The
Okay.
Brain, they made it to the ALDS last year. Like,
You're
and
right.
and I
You're
know they didn't really
right.
make that many moves this offseason, right? But to me, they're a more complete roster than the Tigers and the Twins. Um,
Yeah.
and they have one of the best players in baseball in Bobby Witt Jr. And they have a really good pitching staff. So like, I'm not gonna go against them. They kind of know who they are now. They're pretty consistent of a team. Like they weren't really streaky last year. Like last year the Tigers were streaky. They started off awful, and kind of got really hot at the end. The Royals were a little more consistent of a team. Um, and yeah, I'm roll with the Royals. Royals at number 2.
Okay.
George
Okay.
Brett, I think he's kind of like the baseball operations guy there now.
Yeah.
And they played our Yankees pretty tough. Like all those games were pretty close. The only thing they did wrong was pitch to Stanton.
Yeah.
So and the Guardians did the same thing too. They pitched to Stanton too
Yeah.
for some reason. But yeah, I think the Royals are good. I think they kind of know who they are more. And like I said, it's a toss up for any of these spots. And so number 3, I'm going with the Tigers from the Motor
Okay.
City of Detroit. Like I said, I think the Royals and Tigers like pretty much like the same team. I think they're going to finish like almost the same exact record. The Tigers know who they are now as well. They had a crazy run last year. Um, did make some big. They made some more acquisitions in the Royals to be more complete team in Glaber and Jay Flair, but I just can't see them being as good as the Royals. I like the Royals pitching a little better. I know the Tigers do have Tariq Skubal, probably the best pitcher in the AL now. But the Royals have a little more depth in the rotation, I would say. So I'm giving the edge of the Royals over the Tigers, and so that leaves me with the Twins finishing in 4th in the AL
I'm shocked.
Central. On paper, they're a great team, but they were on paper a great team last year, and
It's true.
they kind of folded. So we're not
It's
going to
true.
roll with them until they prove to me that they could stay healthy and win games. And like I said, that thing with the White Sox, like if they weren't beating up on the worst team in the history of baseball, they would be under 500. I don't love that. So, so yeah, Twins fourth, and then obviously White Sox finishing fifth.
Wow. So we were kind of completely
Yeah,
all over the
which is a
place,
good thing,
right?
which is
Like
good. But
it's a
like,
good thing. It tells us that we didn't talk about this before, right?
and also it's
It's just
like
kind of all over the place.
similar to like what we talked about in the NL East. Like any of these teams, it could go. It's literally a coin flip as to which way it'll go. Toward
Yeah.
the end of the season, could could
Yeah, like I
injury
had
could
the Royals
happen or
finishing.
yeah,
Yeah. I got the Royals finishing fourth, but they could totally win this.
yeah.
Right.
I'm
I'm
shocked,
looking at it and I'm like,
shocked.
someone's got to finish fourth.
Yeah,
And I'm like, the
and
Twins,
it's gonna
I
be the
think could have a
Twins.
bounce back season.
I
The
don't.
Guardians won it last year, but I think they take a step back. And I like what the Tigers got as far as pitching across the board.
Yeah,
Like their offense scares me a little bit, right? But I don't know. Like to me, they might have the most upside here. I don't know.
yeah,
Maybe it's just recency bias, but we'll see.
yeah. And there's a good chance that the top three teams still make the playoffs because the AL West is a little weak, and they still have the
Yeah.
White Sox to beat up on. But yeah, that
Yeah.
wraps it up here on In the Yard. Thank you everyone for listening. Check out our other divisional previews. And thank you for watching. And let us know who you think is going to win division. And we'll see you next time.
Yep. See ya.